Hi, you guys. Welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and today we're going to be discussing something that really kind of has me a little hacked off: stash shaming. So, I think this is a very disgusting habit and pastime that is cropping up more and more frequently in social media. I should have made another cup of coffee or brought my water down for this. At the rate I'm going, I might end up pausing this and going to get my water. Forgive but we're doing this informal. We're not doing this as like a formal video. This is literally just a rant ahead, maybe kind of video. Yeah. So a few weeks ago, I was watching a video where we were being shown somebody's craft corner in their guest room, and they were called a liar for having a minimalist stash. And then when everybody was like jumping all over them saying like, what on earth's wrong with you? You jerk. How dare you? What are you on about? What's wrong with you? Why would you say something like that? In the end, they're like, well, she was shaming me for having too much because she has so little. And I was like, what are you smoking? What drugs did you do? Did you get dropped on your head as a baby? Did you get dropped on your head as an adult? Like, who comes in and says something like that? Yeah, they got eviscerated in the comment section. So like, and this wasn't like a one-time troll who had popped in. This is one of her regular subscribers that made this comment. And it really kind of hacked me off because, number one, like saying you're a liar. That's not even being passively aggressive. Those are some really aggressive words to be saying to somebody. You're a liar. Unnecessary. Just name calling, meanness, rudeness is just utterly unnecessary, in my opinion, and disgusting. But it got me thinking, like, I have seen more stash shaming in general, and I've received some more in general as well, but I'm kind of a loudmouth, so I kind of figure I deserve it. Well, not deserve it, but like I make myself a target. Like it's fine. But I'm also seeing people on like Facebook groups and stuff. Somebody will be like, sorry, my husband keeps messaging me random things all of a sudden, and I don't know what's going on. I've noticed on Facebook, there'll be like a share your stash. I want some inspiration of storage, or hey guys, can you show me your stash? I want to see your colors. I'm having a bad day. Can I see your stash? Because I want to see the colors. And without fail, somebody or a couple somebodies will start making comments on somebody's stash. They don't like the way they have things stored. They don't like the way things look. They don't like that somebody has stuff. They don't like that somebody has that in their stash. It is just mind-blowing to me what people find to pick apart about somebody else. Like I find it galling. That might be a little harsh, but I find it abhorrent. I find it disgusting, and I find it so unnecessary. But there are some people who come in, and some of their commentary leads me to believe they don't understand how other people craft. So that's really what I want to focus on here. The financial aspect to stash building is too personal. Everybody's budget is going to be different, and everybody's budget in cost to store, having an extra room to store it in, or cost to buy is going to be different. And I know people who would love to have a yarn stash, but they don't have the space to store a stash in. So they have a modest stash. I know new crafters who are slowly building their stash. And if there's time at the end of this, I will give some tips for stash building if you are in the process of building a stash, how to build smartly. If not, I can always do a separate video for that. But budget and cost is just, it's too personal into individual households and individual people. And if you're going to shame somebody for their money or lack of money, then you're not worth the air you breathe. So I'm not really going to discuss the financial side of this, but the process that people create and craft, I think, is a really important thing to understand when it comes to stashing and stashes, because different crafters start the process different ways. We will be speaking in generalities because this isn't always true, but this does kind of start stepping you into understanding how one person or another could develop a stash the way they have. So first off, I would like to discuss people like me, because this is what I have the most experience with. I am a supply inspired crafter, not a project driven crafter. I come down to the craft room and go, I really want to make something with paper today. What do I want to work with? Not what do I want to make, not what kit am I going to be using, but what inspires me to get started. And that might be a paper pad. That might be, I want to play with a marker. It might be, oh, I found this like really cool like gesso tutorial. I'm going to clear my desk and bring out the paints and we're going to make backgrounds or something. I am inspired to create by what I want to use that day. When I come down looking to do a new knitting and crochet project, I come in here and look at the big yarn wall behind you guys, which should have been the thumbnail for this video. Or I look at these two bookcases and I go, I really want to work with that yarn today. So I need to find a pattern that's going to let me use up this yarn. And I do try, especially when it's like 3 or 4 balls like this, I do try to find something that's going to use most of the yarn. So I will like go to Ravelry and set the search for like 300 to 700 yards. Worsted weight, size eye hook, free or in my library, and see what comes up. See if there's anything in that inspires me. Sometimes I do see a pattern where it's just like, that has to be mine. But those, and you'll hear me talking about things like I've got Goober the Goblin's pattern printed, and it's been sitting there on my desk now for over a year. My skull cowl, I really want to make it. It's not that I don't want to make it. I just haven't found the right yarn for it. I haven't been inspired to make it because I can't pick a fingering weight yarn. Of all the fingering weight yarns I own, I can't pick just one that I want to do the skull part of it on. I haven't been inspired by the yarn to make that pattern yet. And that's how I work. Even though I really love a pattern, I really generally start with the yarn and then find the pattern, or then go back to a pattern I've been wanting to make. And the show and tell I just did, show and tell 95, I shared where I did the Silent Night cowl by Heather the Crochet Witch. And that's her newest pattern release. I bought it as soon as she released it. When I saw on Instagram she had released it, I literally commented right like 3 minutes after she posted, bought mine. I knew I was going to want to make this pattern. So I went ahead and bought the pattern. Had it sitting in my email. When I was upstairs looking at the yarns I had taken up to really be the focus of what I want to use for just casual projects right now, I found that Boutique Infinity yarn and was like, yes, this would make an excellent cowl, and this would show off that pattern stitch really well. That's how it ended up. I didn't go looking for a yarn to do that pattern with. I was just sitting there going through stuff going, oh, this yarn would be perfect for that. Let's go make it. And, you know, in 24 hours, I'd finished. Well, it took me 2 days, 2 nights of working on it. But yeah, like in 2 days, I had made the cowl even though I wasn't even thinking about making it right now or thinking about doing anything with it right now. I've already started my second one of that cowl, and it's because I had the Premier Luna sitting there on my desk, and I was like, I really want to keep working with this yarn. And I was like, you know what? It'll be really pretty in this pattern too, so let's just go ahead and start making it. Now, the other side of that, and I find these people fascinating because I envy these people, but would never take away from them. The other side of this is noise to some people. This hurts people's eyes. This drives people crazy. This looks cluttered, messy. It's overwhelming. They can't pick anything out of it because it's too much choice. It's too much squirrel. Or they can't see a project out of the yarn. For them, they would rather, and they naturally are inclined to, scrolling through Facebook, they see a pattern and go, ooh, I really like that. Next time I'm out, I need to go grab some yarn for that. And they'll buy, the 2 balls they need to make that shawl, and that's it. They don't opportunistically purchase. They don't. And the funny thing is like, I feel bad for this group of people because there's so much pressure to, there's such a culture of FOMO when like people are doing the big clearance sales or there's a really good deal going on or a new launch out there. FOMO, fear of missing out, retail term, jargon. There's so much FOMO driven shopping that we see that these people at one point or another have probably had stashes and probably significant, not substantial, but significant stashes in the past. And because I've talked to a lot of people who are probably closer to 50 and had been doing this for 30, 40 years in some cases, but they had a couple buckets, a modest stash, not rooms full of it, but they felt like they were supposed to have a stash. They were supposed to have these things waiting on deck to be worked with. So they would buy it opportunistically, just like somebody like I would, but never go to use it. It just sat there and never got used because it wasn't part of their process to go to that bucket. And I don't want to say like these are more rigid crafters because I think I'm a rigid crafter and I'm on the other side. But I've noticed a lot of people who craft like this. I pick a pattern that tries to use as much of the yarn as possible. But if it's a one skein item, whatever, I'll still make it. I really like that hat. I'll still make it. I'll just have 2 balls left over. But the people who have low stash, no stash, they almost feel guilty breaking up skeins like that. So when they go to their stash to stash shop, instead of buying fresh yarn for a project and just buying what they need, if they've got 3 balls of something and the pattern calls for 2, well, now they're left with only 1 ball of that color. What are they ever going to do with 1 ball of that yarn? So they need to save that yarn for another project that calls for just a little bit more. So the stash just sits there. It never gets used. It's never turned into anything. It's never created with. And it doesn't mean they don't love that yarn. They may really love that yarn. They just haven't found the right pattern for it. And they're refusing to break up skeins because they don't want to have leftovers. They don't want to be left with something they can't use down the road. So they don't think to use the stash that they purchased. Now, a lot of them will break the cycle long enough to use what they have and then never stash again. I've got a girlfriend who's brilliant. I love her to death. And she kills me. Like, she's the one who literally looked at my craft room and went, noise. All I see is just noise. How do you ever pick a yarn to work with? Because everything is calling to you at once. So she normally has, 4 or 5 WIPs that she's working on. She always has like one giant, huge project that I'm not sure she's ever finished one of these. I'm pretty sure they just get frogged and she never says anything, and then she's got, the thinking about it, like I have to think as I'm working on it projects. And then she's got just the mindless, TV knitting, TV crochet kind of projects. So she does have a variety of works in progress. She's not like one project at a time. She's definitely not project monogamous, but she has 0 stash when it comes to yarn. 0. None. Nada. Zilch. Her one thing that she has that you could call her stash is her bucket of scraps and leftovers. And twice a year, she takes out the wool scraps, donates them to her church's prayer shawl ministry, takes the wool scraps, knits up some scrappy hats for the grandkids, and that's it. That bucket's empty. Her stash. This woman technically donates her stash twice a year because her entire stash is just scraps. And I mean, she's got some healthy scraps. Like, she'll have open skeins and stuff that are, maybe 50% used. And then she's, got smaller balls of scraps. But yeah, this woman donates her entire stash twice a year to her church to be turned into blankets and hats and scarves. She has 0 stash. She is a no stash crafter. To her, she literally could not pick. Like, she kept saying, oh, I love that yarn you're using. Where'd you get that? Oh, I really like that. Do you have anything else like that? Like, I'll buy it off of you if you got another skein of it. And I was like, just come on over and see, like, if there's something you want, like, I'll sell it to you or gift it to you. Like, just come over and see what I've got. And she's like, oh, yeah. And I was like, no, come on over, look through what I've got, because I'm sure there's stuff in there I'm never gonna get to. My stash is beyond life expectancy at this point. And she literally took one look at my stash and she's like, I can't even look at this makes no sense. Like, how do you know where stuff is? How do you see what you're gonna work with for the one sitting beside it? It is so foreign to her and how her brain process works. I think she left with like a hank of sock yarn and that was it. And it was only because like she did really like the yarn, but it was like sitting by itself on my desk. And that is the only one she grabbed because looking at this was overwhelming to her. It short-circuited her brain. She can go to the craft store and because she's got a pattern, so she already knows where she's going. She's going to get this specific yarn. And she goes to that specific section and can purchase it. She can focus that way. But shopping a stash to her, it broke her. I mean, I felt so bad because to me, it's like, oh, I want to work with this. Oh, I want to work with this. Oh, I want to work with this. And it was just too overwhelming for her. She couldn't pick anything to work with because everything looks great. Everything you want to touch, everything you want to be in the moment with, but you're not seeing, the project. You're not seeing so it's a complete reverse of how I think and work. And I think that's fascinating. And I love her process and watching her shop for yarn is phenomenal. I can't remember her last name. Her name's Leslie, Not Enough Yarn podcast. Goodness gracious. It's probably been 18 months ago. She was working on a sweater and was having to plan for how to extend the yarn in it because she didn't have enough of one yarn and was trying to figure out how to complement it And she's like, I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this, but I'm not quite feeling any of these necessarily. I might have to do like a combination of two of these with this. And I'm laughing because like that's how my brain works. I'm either it all has to be the same, or like I'm gonna go stupid and put like 10 different things together. And trying to blend something that just doesn't quite work. Like I will push and stretch on that end trying to make something work. Whereas my minimalist friend will take her pattern and be like, I think I want to change this for this and this for this, which means I need 4 of this color, 2 of this color, and 1 of this color. And I'm just sitting here. I can't math like that. I can't prep math in my brain like that. Like, and it's one of those, like, I find it fascinating to watch her craft. And there's zero judgment between us. Like, she understands I craft differently than she does. And our process is completely different when we enter our stashes. But as much as I find her process fascinating to watch, she finds mine fascinating. Because when I was in the craft room, I was like, actually, you know what? I kind of want to work with this, and was grabbing a couple of items off the wall and took them downstairs with me. And she's just like, what are you going to make with that? And I was like, I'll find a pattern tonight. Blew her mind as much as her process blows my mind. But I have noticed, a lot of people who have large stashes or stashes on display constantly craft like I do. As a general rule, they're inspired to work with the texture, the color, the yarn that they want to work with, or the paper pad, or the embellishment that they want to work with that day. Whereas minimalist crafters tend to come across a pattern or a project, and then that's what kicks off inspiration for what they want to do. And then they will go get the supplies to fulfill that order. So it's a completely different process from beginning to end. And as much as I understand that, like I'm noticing other crafters, I guess, aren't. I've been a member of a lot of different crafting groups over the years and seen how the process works. I also watch a wide array of craft videos, not just things I do. I mean, I will never paint, but I watch Frugal Crafter. Her first name starts with an L. Her last name starts with a W. My mom will probably comment on this video and yell at me for forgetting her name. Lindsay Wyrick. There we go. I don't paint, but I've watched a lot of her painting, or like gel rolling kind of videos. Just because I find her passion for teaching and her technique of doing and making, she's very inspiring. And I find a lot of color inspiration in watching her craft. So like I don't paint. I don't do a whole lot of like Copic marker art drawings or anything. I don't do watercolors. When I learned what gouache was, I thought that was like the coolest thing ever, because it's like the perfect mix between watercolor and oil paint. And I was saying something to my mom about gouache, and I'm like, I've never heard of this before. And she's like, yeah. My mom is the fine artist, whereas I'm the like crafter. But it's like, this is like the coolest thing ever. I'm learning all about this thing that I'm never going to use. But she is very, she has a wide assortment of products because she does a wide assortment of things. And, over the years, she's once again been gifted things, hoarded things, collected things. But even she has the supplies on hand to make just about anything she wants to. And it seems like she goes into her room and is like, you know what? I really want to paint a seaside today. That's what we're going to do. And so it's not so much she's product or project driven, but like just being in her space, the way she has it inspires what she wants to do. And it's fascinating to watch her. But I do, there are so many people like her that I watch that have an intense collection of supplies. And like I said, once again, a lot of times they're out on display so people can see what they have and see what their choices are. They very much seem to want to work with a thing or a technique and go from there. And then I notice a lot of people who don't keep huge supplies on hand for stuff beyond basics. And they'll be talking about, so you need to go to the store and buy blah, 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 unless you already have them on hand. So you can tell, like, they had to go to the store before they could start their project. But they don't have a whole lot of things to draw from except for their basics. And it's fascinating once you start seeing that in other crafters, you do start to appreciate why somebody has a stash or doesn't have a stash, or understand the process as they, and you do drop away from the mindset of judging people. And I've seen a lot of people, stash shaming large stash people, or using the craft room is the only place that I like. My collections are the only things that I would say I have in more than abundance. I have a modest wardrobe. I can have my entire wardrobe out now at one time, because I really don't. I have enough clothes to be able to make choices of what I want to wear or feel like that day, but not so much I can go a month without laundry. I will have to wash some shirts at some point yeah. But I've seen people, using things like the KonMari method and stuff, as a method of shaming people or trying to dissuade people from owning, not giving away, not donating the things that they have. And to me, I don't understand. The whole purpose to KonMari is to surround yourself with things that you love. Things that you love, things that you want to work with, things that you want in your space. I have recently touched every piece of yarn in this room. And I did have a couple where it's like, I've been holding on to these too long. I really don't like these. They need new homes. But that was a very small collection of things. Compared to what I kept. We're talking like I got rid of 20 balls of yarn versus the hundreds of balls of yarn that are in this room. But I loved everything I laid my hands on. And even the yarn I got rid of, I really genuinely like it. I just don't like working with it. I love the finished fabric. I'm never going to grab that off my shelf because I don't like it. I don't like working with it. So it was time to move it on. It was time to give it a new home where somebody else could really love it and will actually make something out of it. But yeah, how do I say it? Like, you think I should have less? Try KonMari. It'll declutter your life. But I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. I love that. It doesn't always lead you to a minimalist lifestyle. And I know there's a huge swing to the minimalist style and stuff, but yeah, that's not me. It's not for me. It's not how I function. It's not how I process. It's not how I think. To me, this isn't clutter and noise. To me, this is inspiration. I see it differently. I experience this differently. And I know minimalism works great for a lot of people because, once again, it's like my poor friend who couldn't pick out free yarn to save her life because it was too overwhelming to see what she would want to work with, because that's just not. And I've, over the years, snuck her a ball here, snuck her a couple there, oh, I saw the shawl pattern and I thought this would be really pretty and you'd enjoy making it. So I give her the yarn to make that pattern, no more, no less. And I thought you'd enjoy this. And then she's got her little project kit and she's all excited because she got what she wanted. She just didn't realize how she was going to get it. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think there's a huge misunderstanding in how people become creative, what inspires them to create, and what inspires them to want to be in the moment with a project. And when you start lashing out and stash shaming each other, I mean, you're not appreciating each other as artists. You're not appreciating each other as makers. You're trying to squash somebody else's process. And I guess that's why I feel so violently towards it when people start stash shaming, because to me, it's no different than somebody saying, like, your art isn't worth making, or your craft isn't worth doing, or, you're wasting life and time, which that's a whole nother issue for me. That's a whole different can of worms we're not going to get into. But yeah, like, to me, that's kind of what stash shaming feels like. Stash shaming to me feels like you're trying to squash creativity out of the maker you're insulting. And regardless of which way you do it, you're telling them that they're making wrong. How can you call yourself a maker? You're doing it wrong. I mean, who does that? So I want this to serve as a caution and also educational and understanding. A lot of times, stash is dictated by how we craft. Clearly, we're at 32 minutes. I am not going to squish another segment onto this. I'm going to leave this right here. I will come back and do if you want to build a stash, how to build wisely video. I do have tips and tricks on this, and I do, from experience, actually have things I can share with you guys that might actually be valuable. I have a huge group of subscribers to this channel who are relatively new to yarn crafting in particular, though I am starting to gain some traction and interest in my paper crafting stuff. So I do want to share with you guys some of the tips and tricks I've discovered just out of experience on how to build a smart stash and how to build a stash that you will actually use. Excuse me. If you are a supply-driven crafter. That doesn't mean everybody needs a stash. Nobody needs to have a stash as big as mine unless this is what inspires them. Like, this isn't normal. This isn't the norm. Normally, a couple buckets worth, maybe a bookcase or two. But, like, I own a craft room or a craft store. And I don't know what I want to do day to day. I've overbought certain things I shouldn't have. And I want to share my experience with this process with you guys, because maybe I can stop you guys from making some of the mistakes I've made over the years. Anyway, take care, you guys. I did just kind of want to get this out there, and don't be a jerk. Don't be mean. It's not necessary. Yeah. Be kind. Be loving. Be your best you to other people. Help them to be their best selves. Anyway, I love you guys. Take care, and I will see y'all real soon. Bye, guys.